A closer look at intranasal stem cells for cognitive function. What if you could regenerate your brain and boost cognition without pills or without surgery? Scientists have discovered a way to bypass the blood-brain barrier and enhance mental performance, and I will show you how. Could this cutting-edge stem cell therapy be part of the future when it comes to enhancing cognitive performance and mental sharpness? By the end of this video, you will know exactly what therapies and innovations are available to help improve your brain rejuvenation, improve mental focus, and to protect yourself against future cognitive decline. So one of the challenges in treating cognitive decline, and especially in patients who have had some kind of neurological disease, is how can we stop that disease from progressing? That's the first thing, because if you've ever seen somebody who has neurological condition, like my grandmother had Alzheimer's, and it was the hardest thing to watch is to see just her complete demise of her physical body because her brain wasn't working. And so I've been obsessed with brain health ever since I was a kid. I bought this book on memory. I did a whole course called Mega Memory, and then I bought this book on brain health in my teenage years because I saw what my grandmother went through, and I said, I want to prevent my brain from ever experiencing that kind of decline. And if there's other people I can help along the way, I'm going to do that. And so with Alzheimer's, one of the studies that I read, and this was 30 years ago, almost, maybe 35 years ago. But what they did is they looked at this group of nuns and they wanted to see if the beta amyloid plaque existed in nuns who didn't exhibit any signs of Alzheimer's. And this was a great control group because nuns pretty much eat the same, they have the same daily rituals, and these nuns all volunteered to have their brains biopsied after they passed. And what the scientists realized is they started looking at these brains of these nuns. They found that half of the nuns had this beta amyloid plaque that would be expressive of Alzheimer's, and the other half didn't have any. And then they looked at those and they said, even the nuns that had this plaque accumulation in the brain, they didn't necessarily exhibit signs of Alzheimer's. And so this got them scratching their heads and saying, well, what's the best way we can protect the brain? And how could these nuns actually perform so well cognitively, even though their brains looked as if they had Alzheimer's? And so in this video, I'm going to show you how this one revolutionary treatment can change the structure of your brain. It can be neuroprotective, but it might also be a breakthrough for future treatments in neurological conditions. And once again, this is not medical advice. This is the research that I've done. These are treatments that I've done on myself. And so as I share these with you, I'm going to ask you to put yourself in the context of what would be ideal when it comes to brain health in the future. If we're building out your body operational system, the very first place you want to start is, how do you want your brain to process emotions, process memories, how fast you want to learn, what things are you curious about, what's going to excite you. And in order to have that stability, this is where we've said, well, there's treatments that are needed to keep our brains healthy as we go. It's no different than when you go get a massage on your muscles because they get sore and sometimes you have to work out some of the old stuff. Our brains need the same. And so one of the treatments that we got really into about 14 years ago was stem cell therapy. Now, the way we got into this is I was snowboarding at the canyons, and I was going about 40 miles per hour, and I had a skier cut right in front of me. And I had two choices. I could either hit the skier or hit a tree, and I love trees. And so I took out the skier, and when I got up after tumbling multiple times, I knew I'd wrecked my shoulder. The MRI showed a full thickness tear in my rotator cuff, and I ended up having all treatments failed. And so when I was ready to get surgery, the surgeon just said, yeah, your likelihood of having a successful outcome is about 50%. And the cost of it was exorbitant. It was about $25,000 plus the recovery time. And this was 14, 15 years ago now. And I said, there's got to be another way. What about stem cells? And so I started researching, and I found some doctors, and we used these umbilical cord tissue matrix. So this umbilical cord tissue, we injected into my shoulder, and I didn't notice any benefit for 3 days. And then that third day I went to sleep, and I slept through the night, and I woke up and I said, oh, my shoulder's feeling better. And I realized there's some phenomenal benefits to this treatment. And so I noticed that by the 3-month mark, I was doing pull-ups again, push-ups, and it was as if the injury never happened. Now, I've had a lot of concussions and had a history of ADHD. I was the kind of annoying kid in class. I couldn't sit still. I was always shaking my leg. I always pulled in multiple directions until I learned about a technique to treat trauma in the brain through the use of these perinatal tissue stem cells. And so at the conference, I learned the technique, and I was the first patient outside of a clinical trial that I know of to actually utilize these intranasal stem cells. And what I noticed is that night I went to bed and I slept 11 hours. And I'm usually a person who sleeps 7 hours, 7.5, and I'm good to go. But it was as if somebody was organizing all my memories and all my thoughts in my brain, and I woke up the next morning to birds chirping. My brain was calm in a way that I'd never experienced that before, and this was years of meditation, years of neurofeedback, and I finally felt like I was free. I felt like my brain could think, and it was connected to my heart, connected to my gut. And so over time, we've had different clients come through or different physicians who come through, and we've used this therapy and seen very phenomenal outcomes from it. And while it's still early in the research, we do find that it is very safe, very well tolerated, probably safer than any other treatments we do because it's a simple nasal mist. So why this is important is because those neuropeptides and these exosomes, they can bypass the blood-brain barrier, and the stem cells can get into the brain and start sending signals throughout the entire brain. What you'll also find is when these perinatal stem cells, when they get into the lymphatic system in your brain, then they can go systemic around your body, and you'll start to see activation in other areas of your body that need some support. Because all these stem cells they're not taking place, they're not becoming residents in your body, they're just sending signals. These are just medicinal signaling cells, and what the research has shown is that they are neuroprotective. They also allows your brain to produce more antioxidants, so it helps with detoxification. These perinatal stem cells actually secrete what are called antimicrobial peptides, like LL37. And those antimicrobial peptides, what they do is they can break through biofilms and allow your brain to get rid of any infections that may be limiting your cognitive performance. The other interesting aspect is you'll see a better ability to see. We have a lot of our clients who they get up off the table and their vision is clear, clearer than it's been in decades in some cases. And then the final thing that we're finding is from a mitochondrial perspective, when you can get these nice perinatal stem cells, signaling factors in your brain, that's when you start to see better mental energy, better cognition. And that's exactly what I noticed. It allowed me to go deeper into my life's mission, which is to transform the health of as many people as possible. And it's also been the very thing that turned on my brain so that I can be more fully myself, whether you like it or not. But it's a phenomenal treatment. And for those of you who want to go deeper and learn more about some of the new therapies and innovations that can increase cognitive enhancement, then watch my next video here and I'll see you there.